right, Giant fans, Michael Cohen here with you on the Sports Talk Nation, and let's be honest, Giant fans, I don't even know what to say anymore. I really don't know what to say anymore about your football team. This is, it's funny. A year ago at this time, I thought the Jets had the weirdest coaching search in NFL history. My goodness, and this one topped it. The New York Giants have stunned us in so many ways here today, I can't even begin to describe it. We all know it started this morning, very early this morning. We get word that Matt Rhule, who everybody and their grandmother thought was going to be signing with the Giants, he was scheduled to fly to New Jersey today, scheduled to have an interview with the Giants, scheduled and assumed by everybody for that matter, and especially the media and fans, that he would eventually sign on the dotted line as the head coach of the New York Giants, but instead decides to sign with the Carolina Panthers. That was the first story that broke this morning, and then, of course, we have the big one. And the big one being that the New York Giants go out there and make Joe Judge their head coach. And there's so many thoughts that go through my mind right now. And there's so many different layers to this story, it's just ridiculous. Now, first of all, from what we understand, that this all started with a call by Rhule, who has just been offered a 6-year contract by Carolina, called the Giants, said, hey, I want you guys to match this and try to lure me to the play. And the Giants said, we're not going to match that. And instead, the Giants go right ahead and they make Joe Judge, a guy that nobody had on the radar for this Giants job, the head coach of this football team. I mean, wow. Absolutely wow. There's no other way to describe it right now. If you're a Giants fan, if you're an NFL fan, there's just no way to describe this. First things first, on Matt Rhule. The reports that we heard here throughout the day, of course, is that the Carolina Panthers offered Rhule a 7-year contract worth over $62 million, or with incentives around $70 million. And that puts him right into the upper echelons of top paid coaches in the NFL. We're talking about with guys like Bill Belichick, Sean Payton, John Harbaugh. I mean, these are guys who have won championships. What has Matt Rhule done? What has Matt Rhule done? I am stunned by this. The Matt Rhule hype train has been absolutely crazy for the better part of a year. This goes back to last year when he was interviewed by the Jets, and everyone's like, you gotta have Matt Rhule. You gotta go out and get Matt Rhule. Why? What is so great about Matt Rhule? Yes, I understand. He did a great job in Baylor. Turned around a program that was going through some turmoil. 1-11 his first year, turned it around, 1-11-3, and had a chance to get into the national championship playoff. I totally get that. He did a great job turning around Baylor. Did a nice job in Temple. But outside of that, what gives you reason, or anyone reason to think that this is going to translate into being a great NFL head coach? What makes anyone think that he has to be one of the top 10, top 6, 7, 8 paid coaches in the National Football League? It's a big question. And we don't know what Matt Rhule is going to be as a head coach. He could be a great head coach. He could be a bad head coach in the NFL. We don't know. What we do know is that historically, college coaches don't necessarily work out in the NFL. We can go throughout the history. We can go back to Steve Spurrier. We can go to Nick Saban. You can go to Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, when he came into the NFL out of Oregon, everyone's like, man, this guy Chip Kelly is going to change the NFL. It's going to be changed forever. Chip Kelly is going to be the one that's going to be one of the best coaches in NFL history. And it turned out to be nothing. Had a good start in Philadelphia, then it kind of fell apart. And then he went to San Francisco. It was a total disaster. And now he's back in college again. So it's very, very hard to go out there and say, hey, the college coach is going to succeed. Not every college coach is going to turn out to be Jimmy Johnson or a Pete Carroll or a Jim Harbaugh, who, of course, was a long-time NFL quarterback. It doesn't happen all that time with college coaches. So we don't know what Matt Rhule is going to be. I don't know what Matt Rhule is going to be. And when you think about it, if the Giants had to pay about $9.5 million a year just to have Matt Rhule on a 6-year contract, a guy who hasn't won an NFL game and only has a cup of tea in the NFL, I can kind of understand why the Giants passed in that regard. Now, regarding Joe Judge, we don't know much about Joe Judge either. What we do know about him is that here's a guy who was in the Belichick, it was another Belichick disciple. We'll get into more of that in a minute. Who spent nearly a decade with the Patriots as a special teams coach, wide receivers coach this year. The Patriots have always had very good special teams. The wide receiving core, of course, this past year was left a lot to be desired, for that matter. But still, a guy who, if you talk to people inside football, really like the hire from that standpoint. Now, I have no idea. It's not a hire that's going to inspire a lot of confidence in Giant fans. Giant fans over the last day now very upset. You can understand why, because it's not the trendy, sexy pick. It's not the Mike McCarthy or the Ron Rivera pick. But let's be honest. After those two guys, and those two guys, especially Rivera, who signed very quickly with Washington, and McCarthy, who ended up going to Dallas, after those two guys, it was really slim pickings as far as head coaches are concerned. Talking about Josh McDaniels, who may end up going to Cleveland. We'll have to wait and see how that works out. I'm not a big Josh McDaniels guy, especially the way things worked out in Denver with him as a head coach. He imploded there. Then the way he treated the Indianapolis Colts 2 years ago, stabbing them in the back in the 11th hour when he had a chance to be their head coach, had an agreement, and then turned around and went back to the New England Patriots. So I'm not a big Josh McDaniels guy. I'm not big on him as head coach. Eric Bieniemy, we don't know what he was the name that was out there. Wink Martindale, there were so many names out there that the Giants were considering. And instead they go with a young coach who, again, comes from the Belichick tree in Joe Judge. Now, we know that Belichick tree has had some issues over the years. As we know, Eric Mangini was a failure as a head coach. McDaniels, we just talked about. Matt Patricia has had his issues in Detroit. He has struggled over there. Recently, though, there's been some glimmers of hope, if you will. Guys like Brian Flores, who has done a nice job in Miami this year with a team that was supposedly tanking. They wound up winning, 5 games this year. They played hard for him. And, of course, Mike Vrabel. I know he never coached with the Patriots, never coached under Bill Belichick, but still played for the Patriots. And he went out there and beat the Patriots head-to-head in a wild card game. And, of course, you also have Bill O'Brien, who's in with the Texans, and he takes them to the playoffs every year. They just don't win in the playoffs. So, yeah, there's some success, but not much when it comes to these guys who come from the Belichick tree. I don't know what Joe Judge is going to be either. And to sit here and say it's going to be a terrible signing or he is going to be a bad head coach, we don't know. We don't know what kind of head coach he's going to be. Joe Judge may end up being a great head coach. And it reminds me years ago, many years ago, we all do this all the time when these signings happen, and it doesn't turn out to be the coach that the media wanted or the fans wanted or was speculated. We tend to trash that pick, right? Many years ago, and I'm going to use baseball as an example, the Yankees, of course, brought in Joe Torre before the '96 season, made him the manager after they fired Buck Showalter, who took that team to the playoffs in '95. And the headline, of course, was Clueless Joe. And as we all know, it ended up working out. Now, I'm not saying that Joe Judge is going to turn into Joe Torre and the Giants are going to go to 4 or 5 Super Bowls. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, let's give it a chance. Let's step back a little bit here and see what happens. Now, we don't know what his plans are. We don't know what his goals are as far as working with Daniel Jones, molding him into a franchise quarterback. We don't know what kind of coach he is. Is he a disciplinarian? Is he a player's coach? We really don't know much about him at all. And we're going to find out soon enough. On the Giants, I think what this tells us is everything that we kind of feared with the Giants. They are right now no longer the franchise, the standard bearer, as one of the top franchises in the sport. A team that sits there and decides to fire the head coach, Pat Shurmur, keep general manager David Gettleman, who's had a very controversial 2 years as the head of this franchise, who hasn't done a good job as general manager of this team. He sticks around. He is now in charge of this coaching search, and as we have seen, it's been a complete and utter disaster. Basically losing Mike McCarthy, they interview him, let him walk out of the building, and then, of course, he goes to Dallas and signs the Cowboys, and now here with Matt Rhule, who never even got a chance to interview. This was supposed to be his day to interview with the Giants, and instead of having him go down there to interview with the Giants, he says, you know what, I kind of like the money of David Tepper a little bit more, and he decides to go to Carolina. So it just shows you there's a change in the guard here from the standpoint that the Giants' job may not be that attractive to a lot of coaches as we potentially may have thought. And that is a big problem right now. It tells you a lot about David Gettleman, tells you a lot about the Giants management right now. It is right now desperate times for Big Blue. My final thoughts are this. Yes, the Giants as a franchise, the way the front office doesn't look that great, obviously, in selling for a coach that we don't know much about at all. We don't know at all. And, of course, David Gettleman looks really, really bad as general manager. At the same time, we don't know what's going to happen with Joe Judge. We have to wait and see. He may work out. He may not. It's not a pick that's going to, as I said, it's not going to inspire a lot of confidence in what the Giants are doing right now. And as for Matt Rhule, same thing. We don't know what he's going to be either. He has coached as many games as Joe Judge is. Big donut. 0 for that matter. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening. Remember to follow us on social media, facebook.com/OpenMicProgramming, at OpenMicNJ on Twitter, and of course, hit the like and subscribe button right here on the Sports Talk Nation. We'll talk to you next time.